All right guys, we're here with another MG4 and this time we're reviewing the 64 Essence. Now the 64 Essence is the second from the top of the standard range cars. From there you go for an X-Power, which is completely separate. So the one above this would be the long range 77. Now the beauty with this is it's a 64 kilowatt hour battery pack, which gives you 435 kilometers worth of driving. It's 150 kilowatts of power and 250 Newton meters of torque. So it's plenty fast and also very responsive and fun to drive. Easy to overtake on the highway and very easy to get up and down some of the hills here in Queensland. So perfect for what we have here. Now, we've got it in this striking orange, which is actually one of my favorite colors in the MG4 range. The Hunter Green that we reviewed for the X-Power is a lovely matte color. But this just stands out and it just absolutely complements the aggressive nature of the front design. So think Lamborghini, but maybe Lamborghini on a budget and electrified. So to start with, daytime running lights at the top. You do have an LED headlight system as well. A front camera at the front here gives you a 360-degree camera system, which makes it very, very easy to have a look around the car when you're parking, when you're reversing, or when you're navigating some tight areas. So it gives you plenty of visibility. Down here, your intake vent area has been designed to be quite aggressive, almost fighter jet type style, and I really, really like that. Moving around to the side, you can see that we have the aero covers on this particular car. It's an 18-inch alloy, and you can actually pull this cover off and you will have alloy wheels underneath, which gives you just a little bit more efficiency, and it's not uncommon on EVs to have these aero covers on here as well. In terms of sizing for the wheel, being an 18, I thought it may have given a little bit less range or it may have been a little bit uncomfortable. But having driven the MG range now in various different models and lineups in the 18-inch wheel spec, I can 100% say it's incredibly comfortable on rough roads, corrugated roads, and on the highway and in inner city day-to-day driving applications. So I think they've actually tailored a pretty decent tire for the conditions. There have been a couple of complaints from a few people when I've reviewed cars in the past in the MG4 range that said I didn't criticize the tires for having enough grip and that they weren't great in the wet. Look, they're a Bridgestone at the end of the day. They are a low rolling resistant tire, being that it's for an EV. They're not designed to be the grippiest of tire in every application, because that's what a low rolling resistance tire does. And that is actually quite common with many EVs and many fuel efficient cars, not just the MG4. So if you want a car that is going to have super sticky tires and is going to take every corner like an absolute king in the wet, you definitely need to change these tires out and go for a more track specific or performance tire. But again, these have been designed for its purpose, which is everyday people driving it to and from home, maybe on some road trips, and still being safe and comfortable in a number of different environmental conditions, whether it's rain, sunshine, or in between. So definitely good to go there. Mirrors. Now, being that it is orange, it has a nice two-tone effect going on with the black mirrors, the black roof, the black on the bottom of the doors and the body kit styling areas. 360-degree camera extends to the outer two mirrors. So you have the front camera, the two side cameras, and the rear camera. That is what stitches the 360 imagery. Handles, straightforward, simple, easy, and they're practical because they look and operate just like a normal handle. The other thing that I also want to mention, which I didn't mention in my X-Power review last time, these doors are actually quite solid and they close with a pretty nice thud. So they are actually relatively well built, but also that nice solid thud is part of why on the highway this is actually quite a quiet car for an EV, especially at the budget compared to some of the other cars that it competes in this price segment, which are a little bit more louder in the road noise that it allows into the car. So great job by MG. And before I forget, this little button here, press that to lock and unlock the car as long as the key is in your pocket. And the great thing with the key, once I find it, is it's a straightforward key. Nothing too different that you wouldn't expect. It's lock, unlock, and open the boot. So keeps things simple. Back doors open nice and wide, so if you have kids and you need to get people in and out of this car, it's going to be super simple to get in and out really easily. And the styling on these back LED tail lights is absolutely gorgeous. This red area here will illuminate at night and is a continuous rear bar. plus these little indentations here that you can check out in our MG4 review for the X-Power, do light up quite nicely at night as well, giving it a little bit of a different glow as well. So that's another thing I really like with that. The other part is the boot. They haven't gone for a super complicated auto up and down tailgate, which is really annoying and also can actually be prone to damage if you are using it in a commercial application. They've given you just a manual opening boot. And what I mean by damage is a lot of these price point EVs are getting used by fleets, by rideshare rental vehicles, or by hire car companies. And when you've got someone that isn't accustomed to an electronic tailgate, the first thing they do is they try to force that tailgate down to lock it. And I've had it with many of the Ubers that I've taken where I've been picked up in a car that has one. The driver comes out because they've unfortunately suffered damage in the past from someone trying to force the electronic tailgate down rather than just pushing the button that you normally see there. So I think it was a smart move by MG to actually not have that. And let's face it, it's a small hatch area and lift back. You don't need an electronic tailgate. It opens and closes really quickly. Talking about size, it does matter, and it has plenty of space in the back here. So whether you want strollers, prams, shopping, maybe a small little fridge if you're going camping, you're gonna be able to fit all of that in here. And the reason I mention a fridge is this car does come equipped with vehicle to load, or VTL or V2L, depending on which acronym you're using from which brand. That just means that the car itself can act as a very big battery to power whatever you have, whether you're going camping and you have a portable cinema, or you have a projector, or maybe you want to inflate pool toys or whatever for your kids. Or if there's a power outage in an emergency situation, you can also power your fridge, stop food from going off and spoiling, or even just power some of the essentials at home to make sure that you stay well and truly connected with this car. One of the great things with this particular car though is, as part of that vehicle to load capacity, is it kind of opens up the opportunities for you to have just that peace of mind in like an environmental emergency or disaster. And the reference that I'll make to this is earlier last year, we had a situation where a lot of power in the Gold Coast went out after a massive storm. A lot of people lost power to their homes for 1 to 2 weeks. There was a lot of stories from a lot of people they would bump into that they were able to go to the charging stations, top up their cars, get a full charge, or that they had solar at home, but then they couldn't, you know, they were driving out to other people's houses to help them power things like their electronic gates to get in and out, or to go and service different things at different properties to help people as they were trying to clean up. Everything from power saws as well on the highway, or chainsaws, sorry, not on the highway, on the roads, for any trees that had fallen as well. So they actually can be quite useful in an emergency application. So having it is better than not having it, and this car has it, and especially at this price point, it's one of the great features about this car, because a lot of cars in this price point don't always offer the vehicle to load capacity, and you just have to purchase the adapter, which is optional by MG, but is really affordable. I believe it's about $250 and available from your local MG dealer. Spacing down the bottom here, there's nothing because the battery sits underneath here, and there's no tire. You have a tire inflation kit, your safety triangle, and a little bit of kind of height there that if you wanted to load things like your charging equipment, your cables, you're going to be able to hold them down there and keep them out of the way. A little bit of storage on the side pockets there if you want to you know, bring home milk, whatever you want, and you don't want it tipping out over on its side. On the left-hand side, you'll be able to drop down the 60% of the seat. On the right-hand side, the 40%. So they do fold as a 60-40 split, allowing you to use the boot for oversized items as well. This little cargo blind pulls out nice and easily as well. And the tether points are directly behind each of the seats. So if you are loading children into the back and they need to be in child seats, you're not going to lose out on any of the boot space by having them in and out. The other cool thing is on this side, you also have a shopping bag hook as well, which makes it super easy to stop your things from rolling around if you do go shopping. Nowadays, most things are in the big cardboard paper bags, I should say. So you don't have as much stuff rolling around, but if you do, you can latch it through there as well. Before I move to the front, I should also point out that reverse parking sensors are standard on the MG4 Essence as well. Let's move to the inside. Now, moving inside, you have some harder materials down the bottom and at the top here. Now, the harder materials at the top here are a little bit different to the ones down the bottom. So these ones look a little bit nicer. These ones are very much purpose-driven around wear and tear. Soft touch on the handle insert here, which is actually quite impressive for the price point. And you also have gloss black inserts just here and around the handles. Not a huge fan of gloss black on any surface, but it kind of works in this because it's been kept to a minimum and makes it nice and easy. Some nice blue stitching inserts just there. Although this would have been nice to be color matched to the car, or at least be an option to color match to the car, because if you have an orange car, it would have been nice to have a orange highlight for your stitching. As you can see, bottle holders down here, a little bit of storage for a wallet or anything else you have, and central locking switches just here. Steering wheel. It's actually quite comfortable, pretty adjustable. So reach and height and tilt adjustable, so you will find the perfect position. Now, having driven 2,500 kilometers in the MG4 X-Power when I did my last review on that car, I found it incredibly comfortable. So although it is a bit of an odd and unique design that it's just a central floating steering wheel instead of having a spoke here and a spoke somewhere else, it works really, really well. And the shape of it as well has been designed so that it works really well with the square driver information displayed directly behind. So things like your speed readout, lane departure alert, any forward collision warnings or anything like that, they're all read through that central display. And because it is squared off a little bit, rather than a completely round steering wheel, you actually can see nice and easily just there. Recently, we have reviewed another car that is also electric that has also gone for a squared-ish display, and it was quite annoying where the steering wheel position just wasn't designed well for that car. So good job to MG there. The other thing is the lower area here, the seats are incredibly comfortable, particularly on those longer drives. The one thing I will say is these, while they don't feel super cheap, they don't feel of great quality when you are using them. Now, you're not going to be adjusting them daily if they're your car, but when you are test driving or when you first get into it, it's the first thing you feel as you adjust your seat. I'm sure another $1 on these items down here probably wouldn't have broken the bank and would have delivered a car that just kind of took that impression away. Because with the MG4, the really interesting thing is, no matter how many times I've driven this car over the last 12 months, it's been a really impressive car to drive each and every time on the highway, in the city. I actually find myself really enjoying it, and I didn't think I would enjoy it quite as much as this. So really good there. Indicators and wipers. Now, one thing to be mindful of is because it is made for European markets as its predominant market, the indicators are on the left and the wipers are on the right. So similar to things like BMW, Mercedes, or even Tesla as well as things like Vauxhall and Opel as well. So those brands throughout the years, some of them are still around, some of them are not. Those are wipers on the right, indicators on the left. So you're just going to have that. Although it's super easy to get used to, and I don't think anyone will really have much of an issue. On the left-hand side, you also have your auto on and off headlights and your park lights and your headlight off control. So just make sure you select the right the right mode in that section. Otherwise, you might accidentally leave your lights on, which I've done a couple of times. But because the car's a very big battery, it hasn't been too much of an issue. On the right-hand side, you do have your wipers, both your rear washer jet as well, and wiper, as well as your standard front wipers. So they're on the right-hand side. Now, they don't come with auto on and off wipers. Again, at this price point, it's not too bad. Not every car at this price point does. However, it would have been nice to have that as an inclusion, just to make it feel just a little bit nicer. One other thing that I'd say is these do feel a little bit flimsy, but it's not flimsy in cheap, it's just compared to the rest of what you're touching in the car. So when you touch the steering wheel is quite firm, quite solid, it feels very premium. And then when you transfer your hand across to any of the wiper or indicators, they just don't feel quite the same level of premium as what the steering wheel feels. And I think that's a shame because the car itself is actually not a cheap feeling car. The rest of the car is actually quite a nice car. At the top here, soft touch materials, really, really nice dash inlay and a little bit more of that piano black. I do like how it's got this silver insert and highlight that goes the whole way along the dash, so that it just kind of gives it this nice cool feel. And you have your mirror controls on the right hand side down here as well, plus any headlight leveling is on here, bonnet release down the bottom. So pretty straightforward in everything there. Come around to the side and we'll show you through the middle and what you get in the middle. Now, moving to the middle, you'll notice that I'm holding my phone and it's connected with a cable. That's because the USB-A cable here will give you your Apple CarPlay and your Android Auto on the system, and the screen is actually pretty decent. It's relatively responsive and relatively easy to use, so I quite like it. The one thing that it would have been nice is if it had wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto, but it is better to have it than to not have it and be wireless, I guess. Wireless charging pad at the top here. Now, one really interesting thing that I have noted that I didn't mention in my last review of the MG4, it's textured, but it's not quite sticky or rubberized. So what you will find is if your case for your phone is not rubberized or grippy in any way, so this one here is actually quite grippy, so it doesn't slide around. However, I put a plastic case on there the other day, and as I went around the corner, my phone slid off. So just one thing to be mindful, if you are using this, you might just want to have a case that is, QI compatible for your wireless charging, but that it is also a little bit rubberized so that it doesn't slide around. That design I found a little bit peculiar because the other one didn't do it, and I just would have thought that might be an oversight, but just nice and simple and really easy there. Gear selector, pretty straightforward. Reverse on the right, drive on the left, neutral in the middle, and push down to park. And that makes it super simple to do what you need to do. And you'll get a confirmation in the middle here that will tell you if the car is ready to drive once you have selected the right gear. Electronic park brake just here. You just pull it up to switch it on, push it down to turn it off. And it's a floating butterfly type console that gives you a little bit of shade over your cup holders. Now, during summer, I tested the MG4 Essence 64 and did a couple of videos on that car at the end of last year, but I didn't get the chance to actually do a full review on the car for YouTube. But one of the points that I made in that video was that when the sun, particularly in Queensland, is shining directly down that center console, because that shades the cup holders, it means that the cup retains the coolness of the drink for a little bit longer. So it's actually not a bad design. I actually quite like it. Initially, I thought it was a weird way to design it. And I'm not saying that that's what the designers thought about when they built it, but I'd like to hope that that was a consideration because it's become a really handy thing for that to have. The cup holders are also really well designed that the cups don't move around. If you take a corner too fast, your McDonald's cup's not going to fall out and spill all over your carpet. The little grippy teeth inside hold everything really well, and they do it well for coffee cups and water bottles and everything like that as well. So quite well designed. So hats off to MG for that. A little Venetian shutter blind down here that will have a little bit of additional storage, plus your center console area down here to store anything you have, whether it's speaker cables or additional cables, you'll have all that in there. Seats nicely bolstered. They're a mixture of cloth and a premium material on the side, and that means that they're actually quite well ventilated in summer. You don't get sticky and hot and uncomfortable, but they still feel quite nice and premium and firm, so I quite like them. The glove box down here has a little bit of storage. It is on the smaller side, but one thing that I like with this is the attention to detail, that when you press it, it's a soft open glove box. It doesn't feel cheap, it doesn't feel flimsy, and the reason I point that out is for quite a long time, Toyota and other premium brands were the only ones that really did this soft open glove box design, instead of it just pushing the button and then it slamming on your knees. So it's just that small little attention to details that MG has greatly improved in this car, and I think that that gives them a really good direction going into the future, where they're starting to deliver some really good product that is going to catch a lot of people by surprise, particularly at the price point that they're offering a lot of the EV product as an example. Up here, a little holder here for your sunglasses or anything you need, and an auto dimming rear vision mirror is located just here as well, making it super easy to drive this car with someone with the headlights behind it that are beaming into your eyes. You're going to have the auto dimming function there. Visibility out the back is actually not too bad. It is a very slim rear window. Look, I get used to it really quickly, and I don't really notice it, but just thought I'd mention that there. And visibility out the rest of the windows is actually pretty decent. The window at the front is pretty big. The side windows are pretty decent, and it's actually pretty easy to see out the side windows, and the big mirrors on the outside also help as well. So again, really well designed for this. Let's have a look at the back seat before we wrap things up. In the back seat, you are actually going to be pretty decently comfortable, and the one thing I like is that there's room underneath the front seat to actually slide your feet and still be pretty comfortable. Back of the seat pockets, you have little areas where you can store laptops, iPads, whatever. At the top, the little areas where you can slam a phone in and stick it there while it's charging. A charging outlet just here, which is fast charge compatible. And the seats themselves are actually really comfortable. Realistically, this is a 4-seater car that happens to also be 5-seater. If you have big adults like myself, if you have normal sized adults or children, it's definitely a nice, comfortable 5-seater. The great thing about EVs as well is because there's no drivetrain tunnel, you literally have a flat floor. So if you're in the middle, you could actually be sitting here on a longer drive and you wouldn't actually feel all too constricted when it comes to your knees. They're still comfortable. If you wanted to borrow one little slot from each person's seat, you could. Headroom is still really, really comfortable, even though that center section is raised, which again just shows that it's been designed with a bit of thought. And you have the all-important ISOFIX points at the bottom of the outer 2 seats. This car is 5-star ANCAP, and if you want to put your kids in the back, you're going to be very, very much with the peace of mind that the car is safe for them. So that's a good one there. Back seat, as it folds down, like I said, this folds down so you can have any oversized items in here. But the main thing to point out is the top tethers are directly behind the seats, as alluded to earlier, meaning that if you put your child seat in, you're not going to lose out on any boot space by having them tethered in correctly and safely. So that's a great thing there as well. I'd highly recommend, if you're a family, to actually come and test drive a MG4 and to also put your child seat in the back, because I think a lot of people would be surprised at how much space is in what is a small hatch / SUV, particularly in the electric space. I think this actually gives you quite a lot of bang for buck. Looks stylish on the outside. It's incredibly comfortable to drive. It shows massive progress in MG's capability to deliver some really high-end quality product at an affordable budget. And everyone that I've spoken to that drives one of these, that's picked me up in an Uber over the last 6 months, has had nothing but positive things to say about them. So go for a drive, see it for yourself. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions or any concerns or anything that you'd like us to demonstrate. And stay tuned for our video where we demonstrate how to use that vehicle to load system so that you can actually work out how you would use it in your own life, whether it's camping, whether it's going on holidays, or whether it's just an emergency backup for power at home. Until next time, guys, leave me a comment in the comment section on what you'd like me to review next. If there's anything you think I could have done better. And don't forget to like the video and share it and subscribe to help me get access to more and more great cars. Thanks for watching, guys.